Today we will be talking about the great rise of the Shang Dynasty and its fall led by a concubine possessed by a fox. Hey guys, welcome to Learn Chinese Now. I'm your host Jared Madsen, and today we will be talking about the Shang Dynasty, which was founded somewhere around 1600 BC and lasted for 600 years. Now, the Shang Dynasty began because King Tang, a guy named King Tang, led his people and overthrew the Xia Dynasty. So who was King Tang? Well, there's this story that when he was younger and he's walking around and he sees this guy who's putting up all these nets, and this guy's boasting, right? He's like, you know what? I got 4 sides to my net. I'm gonna catch every animal, any bird in the sky, any animal on land. I'm gonna get all the animals. And King Tang hears this and he thinks, wait a second. You know, he goes up to the guy. He's like, wait, let me get this straight. You're going to catch all the animals? That sounds rather excessive. So he said, let me give you a suggestion. King Tang said to the guy, I suggest that you take down 3 of the sides, right? You leave 1 side up. And he says, well, how am I gonna catch anything? He says, don't worry, some animals will go to the right. Okay, you're not gonna get those. Some will go to the left. You're not gonna get those, but some will go into your net and you will get what you need. This is how you should do it. This is how you should live your life. And the people heard this story and they thought, wow, this guy because he was already known as being a very benevolent person. And they thought he's not only good to people, he's good to the birds in the sky and the animals on the ground. He thinks of everyone. This is our guy. This story is called Wang Kai San Mian. Okay, Wang means a net, Kai means to open, San means 3, and Mian means sides. Nowadays, they have an expression Wang Kai Yi Mian, right? So it's the same thing, net opens, but it's 1 side. So this actually came from that story, but it more means, it's like the idea of if somebody did something wrong or they made a fool of themselves or something like that, like you open up the net, you give them a way out, right? They can save some face, they can get out. Now, there's another story about him, and this story happened after he led his people, he took over China, he formed the Shang Dynasty, but for the first 7 years of the Shang Dynasty, there was no rain. The rivers dried up, the lakes dried up, people were dying. So he finds his sorcerer and he says, what do? We have to do something, right? And so at the time, the common practice was you would take mulberry branches, logs, and you would form this pile and you would sacrifice livestock on this pile. You would put them there and then you would set it on fire, and that was your sacrifice to the heavens, right? That was to help bring about whatever it is that you were trying to get. So they tried that, right? They tried that for a while and it didn't work. And then finally the sorcerer said, okay, to end this drought, we need a person. And so King Tang thought, well, you know what? I mean, I'm a horrible ruler. I think we'll sacrifice me. So he goes back, he takes a shower, he cuts his hair, he puts on his nicest clothes, like he really wants to present himself to the heavens, right? He wants to show how sincere he is, and he lies down on the logs and says, okay, that's it, let's sacrifice me. Bring the torch over, light me on fire. Right as they come over to do that, it starts to rain and rain and rain. It rains so much that it fills the rivers back up, it fills the lakes back up, the crops grow, and people have water to drink, they have food to eat, and he goes down in history as being an incredibly benevolent ruler. He was willing to literally be burnt to death, to sacrifice his own life in such a horrific way to save the people, just to do whatever he could to save them, to get the water. So now he is seen as one of the great benevolent rulers in Chinese history. So this story in Chinese is called Tang Dao Sang Lin. Tang is King Tang, it's his name. Dao means to pray. Sang means mulberry, and Lin means forest. So when you say Tang Dao Sang Lin, it refers to this story of his great sacrifice. So the Shang Dynasty had a couple things that are associated with it. One are oracle bones and another is bronze. So we'll jump into the oracle bones here. In Chinese, it's called jia gu wen. Okay, jia means like a tortoise shell, a shell. Gu means bone, and wen means like a language or a written script. So back in those times, they would take either a tortoise shell or they would take bones from animals, and they would basically ask questions, right? Like whatever questions they had, it was a divination process, and they would take those, they would put them into the fire. Sometimes they would do a poker, or they just put them right in the fire. The bones would crack, the shell would crack, and then the sorcerer would take it, look at it, and go, oh, okay, this is what it means. He was able to read that and give the people the information, and then he would actually write Chinese characters on those bones. Now, they found records of, I think it was around 150,000 of these bones, 4,500 Chinese characters, and 1,500 that are still kind of recognized and used today. The Shang Dynasty is also known for its bronze. That was one thing that helped them defend against all these groups. Now, you have to remember that those times were rough. Actually, during the 600 years of the Shang Dynasty, they had to move their capital 5 different times because there were these large tribes and groups that would come in and attack. But one advantage they have was bronze. They were really good at making bronze. Now, the way they made it is very interesting. It's called shi la fa. Shi means to lose, la means wax, and fa means method or technique. So it's the technique of losing wax. What does that mean? How does that work? Well, basically what they would do, it's quite simple. You take some wax and you form the wax into whatever it is that you want to make, right? You want to make an arrowhead, or you want to make a bowl, or you want to make whatever it is. And then you would take clay and you would carefully put that clay around the wax, right? You put it in the sun, you let it dry, then you put it in the kiln to bake it. The fire melts the wax, so the wax runs off, so you're left with this mold. Then what you would do is take the bronze, you would melt it down so it's liquid, you would pour it into the mold, and it would take the shape of the original wax, whatever it was that you're making, the arrowhead or the bowl or the sword or whatever it was. So they used bronze in a lot of things. Mostly though, they used it in weapons or in some of these ceremonies that they did. But one big advantage that they did with the bronze is that they would use it on wheels on their chariots. So they made their wheels extra strong so that their leaders could ride around in chariots and you know, and like during the wars and check out the army and check out things. So that brought them a huge advantage. Now, the Shang Dynasty was also a very well-traveled dynasty. They would travel all over the place. So the Shang Dynasty was not located on the ocean. It was more in central China. But they would often travel to the ocean, and they had boats, and they would travel all around. They'd go to different islands, and they would bring back seashells to the capital, to the main area where the dynasty was. And so seashells actually became their currency. So in Chinese, it's called bei. So a bei is the seashell. That's the currency that they would use. That was their money. And today we see that bei is used in many words that have to do with money. So for examples are pin, jiàn, shǎng, ci. Pin means poor, jiàn means cheap, shǎng means to reward, and ci means to grant, like to grant some money on somebody, or grant something on somebody. So all of these have that radical bei. The character bei is in them, signifying that it has to do with money, that the seashell, the shell is money, it is currency, and it's still used in these Chinese characters today. So after 600 years of rule in China, the Shang Dynasty came to the last emperor, Zhou Wang. Now, Zhou Wang apparently was very smart. He was a well-studied man, and he was also good at battle, right? He was good at fighting people. He was even good at fighting wild animals with his bare hands, right? So this guy was, he was a pretty impressive guy. But he had this concubine. Her name was Daji, and as the legend goes, she was possessed by an evil fox demon. That is what possessed her. And so apparently the whole thing is that she led him astray. And so he did all of these horrible things, these human sacrifices, and he would torture people and all of this horrible stuff that he did to his people. This brought about the downfall of the Shang Dynasty. And then the Zhou Dynasty comes, crushes them, and they are the next dynasty that we will talk about next time. All right, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next week. 再见. To see traditional Chinese culture come to life on stage, I welcome you to join me at a Shenyun performance. Shenyun is the world's premier classical Chinese dance company where I am the MC. Check out the link in the description below.